What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Home Theater Fanatics Live. Tonight is episode 105, and we have a great episode lined up for you. Now, today's guest is Adam Sohmer, and we're going to be talking all about the future of hi-fi and AV. But first, let's get to know our guest. Adam, welcome. How you doing, man?
Hey, Charles. What's happening? How's everything out there in Colorado?
Oh, it's cold. But actually, Colorado is weird because it's like, super cold and then it's like warm and it'll snow and then it all melts away. So, the saying out here is, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. So how are you doing?
Doing fine, thanks. All's going well. It's been pleasantly busy. Obviously don't have to go into what the past year has been like. So
certainly
on a personal level, all's well.
Great.
And as we've seen, and we'll probably touch on, business wise, it's been remarkably good for the audio business as well.
That's cool. And speaking of the audio business, this is your bread and butter. And, for the folks that haven't heard of you yet, and I don't know who that would be. I don't know if you're watching and you haven't heard of Adam, you've done something wrong. But for those people, that one or two, they're like, how did I get on the stream? Who is this? Who are you? Let's start off with who you are and why people should care.
I ask myself that question every morning, but it's a healthy way to start the day. Like I said, my name's Adam Sohmer. I've been doing public relations and marketing for consumer electronics companies for nearly 33 years. My first gig,
and you started when you were one. That's
yeah.
Keep looking so good.
I only look 35. Right. But it was with an agency, a mid-sized agency at the time, 1988, that was handling Sony, top to bottom and side to side. And it was a terrific experience. It was only my second job in this field after trying to figure out what I was going to do when I grew up. I was originally going in for radio. I managed a record store along the way. It all started out really, because there was this love of music, love of the gear, and love of the software, just, at the time, records and everything else. So sort of migrated into this business and enjoyed it. It was hard. It was challenging, exhausting at times. We won't even talk about stressful.
Sure.
But it was a blast and a half too. And turned out I met some great people and here I am. So, like I said, started all that in 88 and have had my own business now going on 18 years. April.
Holy smokes,
18.
that long?
Yeah. Tell me about it.
Man, that's the dream though. I mean, I've worked for the man pretty much my entire career. And, this stuff is kind of like this. It's like my side hustle. But that's impressive to be able to start your own business and run it and be successful for that period of time. That's really cool. Now, when you say you're a public relations agency, I don't, what does that mean? I mean, what do you do? I mean,
now you sound like my mother.
Right? What do you do?
What do you do? People pay you, but it's true. So public relations.
It's true, he says.
Yeah. Hey, the lights are on.
That's right.
So the whole idea is that, public relations, if you go back to the classic definitions, or I should say that, more like the layman's terms, you're working with the press, you're working with influencers, and the idea is to influence the public's opinion. It's going to be about anything. It's going to be about public affairs, politics, social matters. It will be about business. It will be about branding. It could be, anything under the sun. So my specialty, if you will, the area where I've, sort of built my home is working with consumer electronics, audio, video, wireless technologies, both speaking to consumers, the end user markets, as well as the trade, talking business to business, which is something I enjoy as well. So it all falls under that big umbrella of public relations, but public relations itself has evolved and morphed, shape-shifted over the years. So social media, working with influencers such as yourself, the whole idea of what it entails has grown. And part of the fun for me has been the change, because it's different than it was 5 years ago, very different than it was 10 years ago.
Right. I mean,
And
there was no
that's the reason
YouTube.
to get up.
There was no Facebook, no YouTube, no, I guess if you go back far enough, there was no internet. So, you've probably seen the transition from, significant print media presence to, and that's evolved to where it is today. I guess the shows have always been there.
Like the
are they
Consumer
the
Electronics
same?
Show. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
they've changed, and certainly some have gone by the wayside. There was Comdex, which was
Oh, I loved
like
Comdex.
a small country unto
I
itself. It was
loved
I
Comdex.
loved it, and it was huge. But that, I believe, was taken in by Consumer Electronics Association, now the Consumer Technology Association.
Hmm.
So there have been changes. CES itself is massive. This year excluded, of course, but you go there just to learn about all the trends, all the interesting
Sure.
innovations that are coming up. On the AV side, it doesn't have the same relevance to the specific market of audio companies, let's say, and the real enthusiast companies, but they're turning to small to mid-sized shows like Expona
Right.
and high-end Munich, like we were talking about before we went live.
Hmm.
There are a number of venues out there now that are really critical, and I would also say in that group, CanJam. The Head-Fi guys
Oh
have done
yeah,
an
that's
amazing job of
oh
branding
yeah,
CanJam, and that's
yeah.
the show. If you're in personal audio, you have to go to CanJam,
Now
and
is that in
it's a blast.
California?
It's all over the place. So
Oh,
there's
really
one in
moved.
New York. There would have been, I think, the largest one, at least in the States, is in New York every February.
Hmm.
Not this year,
Sure.
but there's one in California. Yeah, I mean, and then there's Rocky Mountain Audio Fest, of course.
Sure.
So there are a number of these shows that have become more specialized over the years, at least as far as home entertainment is concerned. And then on the custom side, you have Cedia,
Hmm.
so the custom installed products. So, and they're all interrelated. So you go, if you hit as many of these shows as I do, you see a lot of the same faces in different cities and different countries, tailoring their messages to the audience. But ultimately, it comes down to entertainment. It's home audio, home video.
Right.
Sure, there are security applications and all that, but we're here for the music and the love of it.
Right on.
Music, movies, and the gear.
Sure. So before we move on a little bit, I want to say hi to some of the folks that are commenting up. Hi-Fi Haven, welcome back. One of the regulars alongside Mad Piranha. He's here all the time, and I'm glad to have him. Double A, the man, the myth, the magician. He's in the house, and Miko Music. She's up in the house. I think this is that Hi-Fi Girl. Is that? I think that's her new channel that she has up on Instagram now. And Mr. Peacock, hailing all the way from Indie Audio Labs, which is Accurus and Aragon. If you need an AVR, he's your man. Well, actually, no. Let me rephrase that. If you need a high-end video processor, he's all like, he called it an AVR. No. Words matter, right? He's like, don't mess it up, dude.
Hulk smash.
I know we can edit that stuff out. Herman, hailing from Herman, I always forget. You're not in Singapore. Where are you? He's somewhere building a home theater that's going to be super exotic. And I've been following the blow by blow as he picks equipment out, and it's been super exciting to watch that process shape up for him. So I'm super excited to see that. And then the first comment of the night. CES used to be where you go to see all the new products and make your orders. It's not like that way anymore. So I don't know. I'm not a CES guy. I just know that it's like across multiple venues and it's super massive, huge, right?
It's enormous.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you the exact square footage. Certainly not what it was like, last year. I guess would have been January 2020 would have been the last one so far. We'll all be back. But it's another experience that has just kept growing and growing and evolving. So for me personally, it's like vacation time. I love that stuff. And it is also one of the most exhausting, stressful weeks you can hope for. It's work, but it's also fun and interesting. And it's where, a small crowd of 145,000 people get together to talk about big picture, little picture, go to, the keynote, everything about it. you could spend a week there and that's the only way you're going to feel like you saw everything is if you
Sure.
devote your time.
Yeah, Jonathan Skull gives you some side eye action and says he's watching you. And,
Yeah, back at you, Jonathan.
So we're talking about your business, right? So you've been in what business for 18 years, you said, and
Yes.
you do public relations for your clients, which are typically some type of electronics manufacturer, usually in the audio, maybe video niche. So who are some of these customers? Who are some of these brands? I mean, do you have the freedom to say, yes, I represent this brand and do work for these companies, or do they keep it secret, or is it a mishmash, or how does that work out?
Well, there are some that I can't mention, so I won't.
Certainly.
But those that I've worked on, past and present. Let's see. Well, let me just back up and say, when I started the business in April of 2003, the idea was I was a couple clients or a couple people that I've been working with had a great relationship when I was at a large agency. They
Mhm.
went to small, mid-sized companies, wanted to work with me directly, but without paying the salaries of middle management and CEOs who would
Certainly.
show up when it was time to sign the new contract. So we were able to cut deals, and the economy was such at the time that I knew that if I did it for a year and everything hit the wall, I could go back out and get another job.
Mhm.
Wouldn't be that cocky these days. But the window is just open and crawled through and haven't looked back. So some of those companies, my first two clients that allowed me to do that, NHT speakers. And if you walk around my apartment, you'll see NHT all over the
So that's
place.
Now Hear This, right?
Now Hear This, based in Benicia, California.
Yep.
I'm not exactly sure about their ownership situation. I haven't worked with them for a little while, but we were together a long time. Same thing with, Dual. Now, we know it as Dual, but it's also a small company in Florida, and they do a lot of car audio, things like that. But
Mhm.
over the years, have worked with Kicker Audio.
Oh, Kicker, man! We got to stop right there. That when I was in high school, that was the business, right? Car audio, Kicker. Oh man, if I had known you back then, oh, such a sweet relationship we would have had. Anyway, go on.
Yeah.
So Kicker, Polk.
So, yeah, and these days, I'm working with certainly Hi-Fi Man Electronics,
Mhm.
outstanding headphones,
Absolutely.
Hi-Fi Rose Network AV streamer, Alta Audio speakers,
Mhm.
beautiful high-end product, Per Listen Audio. Um, there are a bunch, and also Capital Distribution, Capital Sales, really. It's a company that is a distributor in the electronics business, and they too need assistance. So I work with
Okay,
them.
right on.
I've worked with Russ Sound. Yeah, I worked with them for a number of years.
I used to have a Rest
So
sound system. I did the in-wall whole home audio amplifier deal with the little, and this was years ago. I had the kind of antiquated. You cut the hole in the wall and you mount the box, and this got the controls. Yeah,
yeah, and
back in the day.
there's still a big thriving market for that. You'd be
Mhm.
surprised. Wired has not gone away. Like everything else, it's evolved and integrated with other products, other platforms. But that's custom installers are still out there, and it's been a tough year for everybody. But it seems like their side of the business is picking up again.
Sure.
But overall, during the pandemic, and I don't want to make light of the situation by any stretch, but sales wise in audio in particular, it was great. If the company was doing well, or at least on decent footing before everything hit,
Mhm.
and they could keep up with supply, it was a good time for it. People are
Sure.
spending more time inside, indulging their loves, indulging their hobbies, listening to music, watching movies, and a lot of people are turning to upgrades.
Oh, I know that I personally spent way more money than I probably ought to have,
Yeah.
over the last year on stuff for my home because, we've spent so much time here. We all wanted, better experiences, and that's everything from, gaming with the boys. We got a new Xbox Series X, and have a ultra short throw projector in the living room now with a 100-inch screen and upgrades in
Oh,
the theater. And I built out a completely separate 2-channel environment, and I'd mixed that stuff before kind of in the past, and I've talked to you about this, but now I'm about to jump in with 2 feet into vinyl. So I'm selecting a record player right now that I'm going to buy one from somebody. Somebody out there is about to get some money. And not a lot though. I'm not going to spend $20,000 on a record player, still baby steps. But yeah, so I can echo, I think, probably the experience for folks that weren't hit too hard. Now, obviously some folks got hit hard, and man, that's tough times. And I hate to hear those stories, but for folks that were kind of at least treading water, I think they took this opportunity to kind of really invest in those experiences that they could have at home with their families, which is cool, right? So yeah, I totally see what you're saying.
Oh, sure. It's a lot of time inside, so you become more sensitive to the environment. And it wasn't just in audio. If you want to look outside of home entertainment, bicycles, computers, I mean, there were certain
Certainly.
product categories that just took off completely. But it
Deep
wasn't
fryers.
Yeah, really.
Oh, my
let me make a note. I need one.
I was looking at all these little, gadgets for the kitchen. I'm like, oh, I gotta get that.
Oh, God.
The place where I usually get
sucker.
Yeah, absolutely. Now that's it's kind of an interesting point of view on that stuff. But I do want to go back and touch a little bit on some of those brands that you called out, because some of that stuff I think a lot of people might not heard of, because they're, it's not like saying, I don't know, insert well-known brand, right? So like Hi-Fi Rose in particular is one that I had not heard of until, I spoke to you about them, I don't know, 6 months ago or something like that. And they make some of the craziest, coolest streamers I have ever seen. I mean, they're in the, they look kind of like a low profile amplifier that you would have in a hi-fi system, but the whole front is like this beautiful OLED or LCD screen. And, these things will stream everything, including video. So they've got HDMI out. It's 2-channel. The DACs that they have are amazing. Their Rune endpoint. They also do Qobuz and Tidal. And they are just, I mean, they're gorgeous. Like the chassis is like this milled aluminum chassis, and it's perfect. And anything that's in the mid-fi and down, it's just it can't hold up. Just the presence that the device has, in your cabinet, it's gorgeous. So folks that haven't seen these, they gotta check it out.
Oh, yeah. The DAC alone, the integrated DAC on the piece you have is worth the price of the product right there.
Certainly.
And because I'm a big Qobuz fan, that's the one I like. And I'll listen
okay,
to
hold on. Am I saying it wrong?
It's Qobuz. If David Solomon,
sure.
if you're watching, dial in and tell us.
So David's going to be on the show in a few weeks, and we'll get it straight from the source. Qobuz or Qobuz? Which one is it? I always feel like I'm saying it wrong, like Denon. So that brand. I grew up in Alabama, and in Alabama, Denon is Denon.
Denon.
I'm going to get a Denon AVR, and until I broke myself of that habit, I just suffered unsufferable. just all kind. Oh, it was horrible. People made fun of me so much. Oh, they just trashed me. But here's a few more folks have jumped in. Audio Architects Mike is in the house. What's up?
Hey.
I think you know Mike well. He's my good partner. And his show's on Thursdays at 8 Mountain Time. So make sure to check that one out. And Herman says, that I've helped him with many recommendations. Man, anytime, that's the great part of this show and all the other stuff that I do. It's building that relationship with people. And I like to be the bridge between folks like Adam and then brands, as well, and help people understand what's out there and what might work for them. It's not about trying to sell a product or fronting something. It's about, creating knowledge and educating as much as I can. And then I, personally get to play with all kinds of stuff and have a lot of fun that way. We've already said hi to Hi-Fi Haven. Let's see, anybody else new? Okay. Jonathan is setting us straight. He says it is Qobuz.
I don't know. Take a look at that photo. You sure we can trust him with that suit?
I don't know. I like the red tie.
Yeah.
But is it saying? I don't know, Jonathan. Man, in any event, I do want to say thanks for coming and watching the show, Jonathan. I don't think I've had you on before, and it's awesome to have new people jump in. And we've got a hello from Mexico from a Facebook user. Greetings, ¿cómo está? That's about all I've got. Obren, I can remember high school. Obren sus libros a la página dos. Open your books to page 2, I hope. All right, I could have said something totally bad. All right, but I think it's time for us to jump to the topic of today's conversation. I want to spend a little bit of time, and this is where we put on that big genie hat, right? And we predict the future, and look at us like we're seers and purveying what is to come. But I'm curious about, what do you see? Because you've got a lot of history and you've seen how things have been changing. And I think you got that feel of looking from the inside out almost, because you're kind of part of the machine and you talk to these folks and you see what's going on. Whereas somebody like me, I've always been on the outside, so to speak, looking in. And it's kind of a different perspective. But any predictions of what we're going to see in the coming 1, 2, 3, 5 years for hi-fi 2-channel AV lifestyle products, which I think in particular we'll see even more growth? What do you think? Any predictions you want to put out there?
Well, certainly on the lifestyle side,
Yeah.
When I get on my soapbox, it's usually about speaking to everyone. I consider myself an enthusiast. I'm an audiophile, whatever you want to call it. There are people who are mega audiophiles who would look at me like I don't know anything, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I get into the gear. I like talking about it. I occasionally like tweaking it. So that's me, and that's my life.
Sure.
But, the people I know, my closest friends, some of them like the gear, some of them don't. Some people just want music. They want to get to it easily. They want to hear what they want to hear. Don't give them any lectures about high res versus Spotify or anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of trying to change minds, my feeling is if we're going to evangelize about anything, it's the experience of listening to music and maybe watching a movie on a better system, something better. And a system could just be a portable speaker that
Sure.
you're streaming to. So if we can make that better, and there are a bunch of products out there now, streaming speakers, some are better than others. And look, I'm going to mention the B word. I don't work with this company, Bose. They have a product called the Mini Link 2. It's a great little portable speaker, to move around your apartment. Would I want that as my main listening? No, but it's a good thing to have. And for people who just want some music around, there you go. So there's no reason why you can't have something like that just be better, and maybe a slight upcharge over a real cheap piece of stuff. Same thing goes for headphones. Like I mentioned, I work with Hi-Fi Man Electronics, so I have a pony in this race. But overall, that experience of listening to a good headphone, my feeling is once you do that, you don't go back. So you need those headphones that work well with.
Let me make a comment about that. So, it wasn't too long ago that I started dipping my toes into what I would consider to be higher end headphones. And for folks that aren't headphone aficionados, there are two big classifications on the driver side for headphones. So you have a lot of dynamic drivers, and then you have this thing called planar magnetic, right? And these are actually planar magnetics, and a large number of the Hi-Fi Man headphones are planar magnetic, although they do have dynamics as well. And until you kind of jump in and start listening to the differences in these things, I don't think people really do understand how good a set of headphones can sound. And a set of headphones can give you that experience, that people hear there. I want, they use a lot of words to describe it, but whatever that experience is, you can get it out of headphones. And I didn't really understand that. Maybe, I don't know, like 2, 3, 4 years ago, something like that. It really dawned on me that, I can have an experience with headphones that, while maybe not as physically impactful as like a big room full of speakers and that kind of thing, it can be a very moving experience. And, it's more of a personal experience too, because, it's not like this big space. It's like, I don't know, when I listen to music with headphones, I just want to close my eyes and bring it in. And it becomes not about the equipment at all for me at that point, right? It really is purely just about the music. Whereas when I'm listening to speakers, I'm all like, oh God, I should put up some room treatments, or, something always gets into my head to mess things up a little bit. I don't know. Yeah, I just if people haven't really dug into headphones, and where should they start with Hi-Fi Man? If folks wanted to kind of take things to the next level, what do they look at there? Any suggestions?
Well, what I would say, my question to them would be, how do you listen to music? Are you the type who just wants to put a couple of earbuds in and walk around, stream from your smartphone or tablet? If that's the case, Hi-Fi Man has their True Wireless products. True Wireless are those wireless earbuds,
Mhm.
billions of them on the market. Not that many sound great. I can think
Sure.
of a handful of companies that are getting it right, Hi-Fi Man being one of them. So their TWS 600 and more recently the TWS 800 is a $300 earbud, and it's beautiful. It sounds fantastic. I don't have one here for show and tell, but
Sure.
I would suggest just going up to their website and looking around at the two True Wireless models there. But let's say you want to take it to another level. Hi-Fi Man recently came out with their first closed back headphones in some time, the R10P for planar, D for dynamic. I think these are outstanding. They're wood cups. But what the company has really, where it really made its name is with the open back planar design. And for that, their Sundara headphone that was released a few years ago,
Mhm.
it's a few $100s, and it'll change your life. Put a
I like it.
good amp behind it, there's just nothing like it. And if you need something that's more sensitive, that works better, say with a low voltage device like a smartphone, I find the Sundara works really well. But they have another product, the Deva,
Mhm.
DEVA, and I believe you have a pair of
Oh
those.
yeah, I love them. They're awesome.
Yeah, I mean, so that's one which really cool because it's an open back planar model. You can plug it directly in with the USB-C cable, and just put it into your device's output or whatever. Or you can stream Bluetooth with their little Bluetooth Mini, this little thingy that hangs off like a dongle.
Mhm.
Uh, that's the streaming end of it. It's light. You don't notice it. It's wear it on your head for hours. It's the best Bluetooth experience you're going to have at that price range. For a few $100s, which is really not expensive in headphone world. There's nothing else like it on the market.
Yeah, so and I did a review of these a while back, and the thing that struck me as being maybe not unique, but not common is the ability for the headphone to be a chameleon kind of. And what I mean by that is that it has multiple use cases. So, like this headphone, it's just a headphone, right? I got to
Mhm.
plug it in, and I wouldn't want to travel with this, and I can't use it to do a conference call. I like to monitor and listen to music on it, but the Diva has this module called the Blue Mini, and if folks haven't looked it up, they should check it out. And it comes on and off, right? And
Yeah.
it's simple, but it's also ingenious. And what it does, yeah, it's tiny. It
Yeah.
turns a traditional headphone into a modern piece of equipment, right? So you get all of that wireless capability, but you don't have to use it if you don't want to,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And it is proprietary for certain Hi-Fi Man products. It's not like it's going to work with everything that has a 3.5 millimeter input, which is how it plugs on. So along with the Deva, now I mentioned the two closed back models. One of them, the
Mhm.
dynamic model, in particular, I think it works very well with that too. So
Awesome.
you're going to see more of that coming from Hi-Fi Man. I would imagine other companies out there as well, but Hi-Fi Man is one of the first, and I think they're doing it among the best. So to me, it's a matter of wearing a headphone and then forgetting about it. I want to hear the music, and that's what the Deva does for me when I'm out. Now it is open back. Open back means that there's going to be some sound leakage around you,
Sure.
but it's natural, it's transparent, it's a more neutral sound. So that's my personal taste. I know with their new R10P, the higher end of their closed back models,
Mhm.
it's a much more traditional headphone experience taken to the extreme. I mean, just beautiful, especially when I was listening to classical music on it, driving it with a good amplifier sounds amazing.
Oh,
But
that's great.
Hi-Fi Man is one of those companies that has, many SKUs. So right now, talking to you, I'm not using my speakers. I'm using one of their little little in-ear models that I love.
Right.
The RE600. It's perfect for this. On my desk, I have an integrated amp, an Emotiva TA100,
Mhm.
and this plugs right in. So when I'm doing a call like this one, I'm not filling the house with the whole conversation. It's just if anybody else is here, they only have to listen to my side of it.
They only get half of it, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
And your part is the best part. So they're missing out completely.
Well, I appreciate that, but I don't tell them to log in and subscribe. That's what they should do. That's what they should do.
Log in and subscribe.
Actually, everyone, if you're watching the show right now and the folks that watch this later, this is a great time. This is the call to action. This is for you, for the people that haven't subscribed. I'm angry at you. That's right. I do this show every week and you still haven't subscribed? Oh, no, I'm kidding. But if you can, like, subscribe, hit the bell, drop in comments, all those things that everybody asks you to do in every YouTube video. We love that stuff. Anyway,
send money. Yeah.
There's a tip button. I got to the point where I can get a tip on YouTube now. It's really cool. I remember the first time I got one, I was like, what happened? It came up with these big letters, $5. I'm like, what? $5? And then I was like, oh my God, that's the coolest thing ever.
That's so simple, cool. It's brilliant. Yeah.
I know. So let's some more predictions for the future. Have some questions coming in. So Joey says, and I'm supposed to ask you, he doesn't care what I think. So thanks, Joey. What are your thoughts about the future of 8K? So we're shifting over into television and home theater now.
Well, there are a number of ways to look at it. This is all me talking now. Just want to preface this. So I'm not even basing it on like market predictions or anything. I'm just talking like from being, the deep end of the pool for so long. I would say that if you look at 4K, to really appreciate 4K, you need a 70-inch screen or larger. So I live in an apartment in Brooklyn, really nice size apartment, but I'm not sitting that far from the screen in my main room. So, 4K is nice. It's not critical. 8K, it's a similar idea that if you have the space and you have the room, and of course the accompanying gear to go with it, it's going to look slightly better. The question is, will it be incrementally better to your eyes? Is it something that's going to spoil you for the previous generation? I don't know. I personally, I didn't see it any of the demos that I've come across over the past couple of years. You can stand there, jaw dropping, go, wow, see ya, and be blasted away by it. But I didn't walk away feeling that I personally needed it. Now, for the market in general, you do need something new. And the idea is to keep growing and evolving and making it better. So I have no doubt that the consumer applications will be there. The question is, how big will the market be? And will the market be satisfied by what they're getting through, say, streaming services that may not be doing 8K anytime soon?
Right.
So, personally, I would say, if you're thinking of investing, tread carefully. Do some homework about how you would really watch and appreciate it. Otherwise, if you're not totally convinced out of the gate, go with your gut and just wait. Because it will evolve and become something either more accessible or not.
Sure.
But now wouldn't be the time to start going there unless, of course, you're in the business. So
I do want to make a comment on, what I see coming in the video world, right? And there's technology changes like 8K and there's the new version of HDMI and those things, and those are all important. But for me, where I think really the change is going to happen over the next couple of years at least is really in the way that content is delivered to the audience. We've gone through a humongous shakeup, and I don't think we're at the end of that, right? So, HBO Max kind of shocked the world when they announced they were going to carry all the the new Warner Brother movies throughout this year. Who knows what happens next year? But that definitely tipped me over the edge of getting a subscription because I wasn't going to do it before. And then when I heard that, I'm like, all right, HBO Max, you're in business with me now. Let's do this thing, because they're getting some tent poles that that I really want to see. You know, the new Dune movie, you got to have it. You know, the new Justice League stuff that's coming out, and you know, I still need to watch some of the movies that I probably wouldn't have watched otherwise, like the Little Things. I would not have watched that, and I like Denzel Washington, but you know, it's like a crime thriller, and that doesn't normally fit my mold if I'm going to go watch this movie. But you know, I watched it. So, and you know, like Judas and the Black Messiah, I'm going to watch that one. That one probably wouldn't hit my action spectacular movie kind of tentpole thing that I usually go for, but I'm going to check that one out too. So I think the way that we consume content is absolutely going to be a big change for almost everybody over the next several years. I do hope that all that money I invested in movie theaters when all the stocks went on sale, you know, does bear a little bit of fruit. But I do think that we are looking at a fundamental shift.
Oh, sure. Now, I mean, it's funny you mentioned theaters. First of all, I love movie theaters, and that's one of those deals where, you know, after, you know, the world starts to open up again in a serious way, I'm going to be first online. I can't wait to go to the big screen. I grew up with movies. I think in the right theater, you just can't match that experience. No matter what you have going for you at home, it is different. It's collegial, everything about it.
Right.
But I think over the past year, you know, the pandemic has really forced the hand of these streaming services like HBO Max, where Warner has, you know, these great titles. What are they going to do? Sit on it for another year?
Another year.
It's impractical, you know. So this is where I got into Disney Plus. I never thought, if you know, 5 years ago, if you would have told me that I would be addicted to a service called Disney Plus, it's like, no, you know, that's just not happening. But then you look at the content on there. Every Simpsons episode, that alone is worth the price of admission for me.
You could watch television for the next 40 years just watching Simpson episodes.
Yeah, and I just might. So you know, it's really cool a bit. It's changing, especially when you think that, okay, guys like us, you know, we have the systems at home, we appreciate the difference. It doesn't make us, you know, better or worse, you know, less attentive, but it's just who we are. But there are a lot of people out there, especially those under 40, who are now watching primarily on their tablets, on their phones, and that's not where you're supposed to see a movie, and we can all talk about it and quote Martin Scorsese about it. But the fact is, you're not going to stop it. So I think we're going to see more content geared to smaller screens, portable screens, really customized for that territory. Whereas, you know, the big screen experience and the special movies will be there. What I guess at least on Amazon Prime, they call early access, you know, so what would have been a first run movie, you can now pay $10 to $20 at home and watch it there. I've done that many times over the past year.
Absolutely.
But it's not the same as what we're going to see coming up, which is content really catering to the small screen. I think Quibi,
yeah, you know, I don't have any experience with that yet.
Well, it's gone. You know,
is it gone? There you go. I've heard of it, but that was the whole folks point. That don't know. Can you inform them what that was?
Well, these little short form videos, big budget behind the company. I believe it was Jeffrey Katzenberg, and they were going to be like, you know, like high profile, you know, big names on there. And I don't know how much of it made it out there before everybody yawned. But then you turn around and, well, look, you know, a bunch of people watching us on YouTube tonight. I think YouTube has probably, again, this is just my opinion, but has the most potential to grow and evolve with the market. If you look at the parent company behind it, what they can pour into it with the different options, they can tailor viewing to your liking and then just get rid of it. So, you know, remember Cobra Kai started out on YouTube, made a big splash, and then they sold it to Netflix. We're going to be seeing more of those where there's some more trial and error in the market. So to your point, I don't think we're anywhere near, you know, what it's going to look like in 5 years. We're just getting people used to the idea of canceling their cable subscriptions, but signing up for 5 different services. You know, me, I have Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, you know, haven't done HBO Max yet, but, you know, I just need a little nudge in that direction. I'm sure that'll happen. So, you know, it's going to be more mix and match. And for me, it's more fun. You know, somebody who grew up at what they now call appointment television, and that was just how you watch TV.
Well, I had 3 channels when I grew up.
Oh,
Channel,
yeah. Well,
channel 12, channel 20, and channel 32.
wow. Well, there's a UHF. Uh,
Yeah.
how many of those in English? Uh,
All of them were in English. That's all there were. Just
wow. Okay.
this is out rural Alabama. So NBC, ABC, and CBS.
Oh, you see, in our big cosmopolitan New York market, we had the 3 networks and then 3 local stations, and that was it. So if you wanted to see your show, get your butt in front of the TV when it's on, and that's just it. And then as it evolved over time, sure, with cable, HBO, Simon and Garfunkel and Central Park will be rerun, 1,000 times a week.
Talking about something I wish that I could see go back in time. Oh, man.
The actual concert itself
Yes.
or the video? Because I could give you my video.
No, the actual concert. Oh my God. So, I'm not a big concert guy, but there are some of these iconic concerts that have come across over the years that I wish I could somehow be able to, time travel and transport myself to be able to experience it. And that's one of them. I like Simon and Garfunkel. I'm not like a huge mega fan, but that would be cool. I mean, that'd just be, I don't know. Sorry, I digress.
Oh, no. It was an event. No, I was there, and I can say I was there. I can say I was there, but I can't say I saw it because there were no big screens. The speakers were okay, so I could hear the songs in the background. But out on a blanket, sheep meadow, in Central Park,
Sure.
Population of a small country. So it was. You had to be upfront. I've just become pickier over the years with seating. Of course, prices have gone up exponentially too, which brings me to another point about the live music experience. Now, I miss concerts. I miss going to clubs. I miss all of the above, and usually spend a fair chunk of change on it over the course of the year. I think after this year, with more of the streaming events coming online and more of those options, it's going to continue to be an option as things start to open up. So, you'll for those big events, you can still go here in New York to Madison Square Garden or a Barclays Center to see an A-lister, but you'll also be able to stream it for $20 to $40 at home, or on your laptop, your phone, your tablet, wherever you happen to be. And that's going to be the preference. A lot of my friends don't enjoy the concert experience anymore, but they still love the music. They just don't want to go there.
That makes sense.
So we're going to see more of that too. And I think that's something that's trying desperately to catch up with the times. We've seen so many of these live streaming events over the past year because artists are just trying to stay in business and keep working and keep their names out there. But for me, it's not the same as, I'm not going to look at my phone for this, but certainly. I will sit in front of my TV in the surround sound, nice 5.1 setup. That's another story. Then it becomes more of an experience that I can enjoy.
Right on. Okay, well, let's take a quick pause because I do have a couple other things that I want to call out before we get back to our predictions of the future. And I'm doing some new stuff on this episode that I've not done before. Let me see if I can get this sound right. Here we go. Now it's time to talk about the headphone of the week. Was that good?
That was great.
Was that great? Well, yeah. And this is for everybody because I've got this new schwanky top-down camera. Look at this. I'm bringing this live for you guys. I'm doing stuff that you've never seen before. And a special call out to Kaleidoscape. They have they've given me subsidy for this small piece of land here. So this feature by Kaleidoscape right there in the corner. But today I'm going to talk about the Yamaha YHE 700 headphone. And I know you're a headphone pro, but this is kind of different, I think, than the stuff that Hi-Fi Man is doing. This is a much more mass market kind of headphone. And I've been playing with this one today. I actually did a live stream where I unboxed this thing earlier, and I'd never touched it before. And I learned two important things about this thing. One, it's not useful really for live streaming because this is really a headphone that you're going to want to, for the most part, attach wirelessly and use Bluetooth with as a source. Now, it does have a 3.5 millimeter jack that you can plug in, but in this scenario, the mic was still active and I was getting some weird echo stuff. So sounds great for music, but absolutely not good for podcasting and YouTube action. But this is probably the, kind of the penultimate travel device, noise canceling, wireless, 35-hour battery time, microphone, does phone calls. This is a dynamic design over the ear, although the pockets here aren't super big. If you've got tiny ears, maybe they could get in there. But for me, I'm kind of sitting at this level when I put these on. They do create a good seal though, and keep things quiet. They're dynamic 40 millimeter drivers, and they're doing, I think, like 8 hertz to 40 kilohertz. So they have a really great range on these things. And I did take a few minutes to listen to music, and everything from rap, did some female vocals, a little classical, and it all sounded great. The high end was not harsh. You didn't get a lot of that harsh sibilance that you can get out of some. Low end was super good on these guys. Anyway, headphone of the week. These were sent over by Worldwide Stereo. So if you guys like headphones, Worldwide Stereo, check them out for the new Yamaha gear that they're putting out there for everyone. And now we're back. One thing I did want to talk about also is a question that came up. Let me see if I can scroll back. And I've lost it, but the question was for you, and it was, do you see any difference in the products over this last year as far as kind of different age ranges for people? Have people been looking at things that they might not normally have looked at? The younger folks like, I need a tablet and I'm going to watch all my stuff on a tablet. Have you seen maybe that cross age ranges, kind of become multi-generational? Any difference in buying habits according to age? I thought it was kind of an interesting question.
Oh yeah, well, and not just over this past year, but even before the pandemic, headphones. Speaking of headphones, that's where we're seeing some of the biggest interest. From those moving from mass market products like the average over the counter stuff for $50 to something that really does take an investment. Younger people love good headphones, and we're seeing, if you go into Can Jam, unlike, some other events in the industry, Can Jam will have more people under 40. And I keep coming back to that because it's music. It all comes down to, why would you listen on good headphones? Why would you have a good amplifier? Any of these things? It's because you love music and you want it to sound right, even if you're not even thinking in that language. That's what it's really about. So in the headphone market, we're seeing more development, more risks being taken, more investment, as well as many, many more Me Too products. Like I was mentioning with the True Wireless Buds earlier, there are scads of those on the market, but maybe a handful that make a difference. So I would say, the headphone market in particular, we're seeing more options coming up. And then on the streaming side, that's the other end. I mean, because look, we'll always have like the audiophile market. I believe that people who are into gear, who really like to take that deep dive, there'll always be new things, new variations coming onto the market. But for folks who just want to listen to music, I think that's where streaming is where it's at. And the fact that we're seeing more options coming through on the high resolution side now, a little more attention being paid to, better quality coming over. It shows that it's moving in the right direction. It's moving, toward an improvement in the experience. Right. And that's been pretty visible over the past year. But because of the pandemic, I think a lot of companies were just trying to keep up with supply and demand. So this year, 21, you're going to see a lot of new products coming onto the market that are next generation, that really are a step forward.
That's cool.
And I think personal audio is where it's really going to be centered.
That's really cool. And speaking of personal audio, we're going to make a segue that doesn't match with that at all. But now, cool. Let's take a break and stroll down to a cozy little place I like to call Content Corner. This is where we talk about all the cool content we love to consume. And today, I'm going to tell you all about Star Trek Discovery Season 3. I was excited. All right, this is where I unfurl my geek flag and I let it fly and I live my best life, because I love this stuff, and I've watched pretty much everything Star Trek related that's ever come out, and I just finished season 3, so I held on to it for just a little while, and a lot of people have already completed that a while back.
Yeah.
But I just finished last maybe Sunday night, and oh man. So for people who don't know, all right, and this we're going to go into spoiler city just a little bit here, but I'm gonna walk you through the season of kind of what's going on in season 3. So Star Trek Discovery is all about Michael Burnham, and Michael Burnham is Spock's sister. And you're like, sister? And like they said in Star Wars, sister.
No, start with a phrase. It's like, oh, he kissed his
sister. Yeah. But yeah, so the show starts before the original series in the timeline, and it tells us back history. But then in season 3, they jump through a time portal and go to the year 3188, which is far in the future. It's like 900 years after everything, right? And it's really cool the way they take all this cool technology, because they wanted the show to be interesting, right? But they had it set in the past, but they had all this cool technology that wasn't part of Star Trek, the regular continuum, and so they had to come up with a way to have all this cool stuff but not have it impact all the other series. And I do like the way they've jumped into the future now. So it's really compelling because they create this story in the future. Watch the first 2 seasons and they're good, but season 3 is really, really good. It's when they go to the future and they really just let things go. And I like that it has some kind of call back to Star Trek The Next Generation and also the original series, which I think of as space fantasy and not so much science fiction. Science fiction like The Expanse, I think of that as more hard science fiction. And Star Trek, at least now in this series, is more of the space fantasy, because you have like these aliens that have all these super weird powers that don't look like they're technology driven, but like it's almost magical. So if like you remember way back in the day that they had the Q, and the Q could do anything. It's like this omnipotent being is all powerful. Well, they had some stuff like that, and now they have this thing called the mycelial network, where they can talk to fungus and then instantaneously teleport anywhere in the known universe. So it's kind of an interesting, like I said, space fantasy, also space opera. And I really like the character development that they had this season as well. Like I said before, I love this stuff. I can't get deep into it, but I do recommend this for anyone who likes science fiction at all. This was really well done. And I'm happy to say that season 4 has been picked up. Now, at the end of season 3, they put a humongous bow on everything, and it could have ended. And I think, when they were writing this, that they thought, okay, this is the end of the story arc. We might not get picked back up, because you can tell that they absolutely, tightened up as many of the loose strings as possible, but very excited that it was picked up for season 4. Some comments out there. Joey saw the original Star Trek movie in the theater when it debuted, which was, that was interesting. V'ger, which was Voyager. And that movie was such a departure from all the ones that followed after that, because I think after that it was Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, right? And that is, that Captain Kirk, that is like the penultimate Kirk, that movie.
Still the best.
Oh, absolutely.
Still
and
the best.
I love it. And what was the guy's name? Ricardo Montalban? Is that
Ricardo Montalban? Yeah.
Yes. Oh, so good. So good. And then Hi-Fi Haven says that he started Star Trek the fall of '66. Well done, sir. That's cool. You were in there on the original side of the house. I love it. But so that's my pick of the week. Very excited to finish that one out. I mean, we're living in the golden age of television right now. This is a new golden age. And for me, I think this will be the era that I remember more than any other. The 80s, were compelling in their own way with the A-Team and Airwolf and all those kinds of shows. But now, this year is going to be crazy. We've got all of the Marvel television shows that are coming out. There's going to be Dune Sisterhood coming out, and I'm a huge Frank Herbert fan, so I'm super excited about that. There's going to be 4 or 5 Star Wars shows. Star Trek's got 2 series going right now, and I believe the last, I think I actually wrote this down. Yeah, so Enterprise ended in 2005, and Discovery started 2017, which a 12-year gap of no Star Trek, right? And now we've got Discovery and Picard is on television, and I am super happy that they brought that character back, and he's still kicking around. Mad Prana says, Golden Age? How about the carbon fiber age? Yes, maybe maybe that is a good way to refer to it. Anyway, so that enough about Star Trek. Adam, anything from your point of view that is hot on your list right now?
Oh, sure. Well, you mentioned television, golden age of TV. I do agree it's a golden age of content. I don't think of it as television anymore. This is just me because it's not like you have to see it on a big screen or anywhere.
True.
You just call it up. Now, speaking of content, when we were talking about this beforehand, you didn't mention it should be new. Even if you did, I probably would have ignored you. So I brought props.
Doesn't have to be.
Some of my favorite sounding and looking content as a music nerd. Sound Breaking, which I believe is still on Hulu. Get the Blu-ray. The Blu-ray is amazing.
Really?
This is an 8-part series, executive produced by Sir George Martin the year before he passed, all about the recording process. And it goes into different genres, periods of history. So each episode has its own theme. The sound on this is exquisite.
Okay.
It's one of my favorite demo discs, and I just keep going back to it. I don't know how many times I've seen the series, but love this. If you cut me, I bleed Zappa. I'm a big Frank Zappa fan. So of the many DVDs out there, this is the Blu-ray of the Roxy performances, what many consider his best band from 1973, featuring George Duke, Chester Thompson, so many others, Ruth Underwood. This is the movie they made. It was like a disaster when they did it, but through the golden age of digital, they were able to, perform some voodoo and not only bring it back to life, but it sounds like you're in the Roxy Theater when they're performing the show. And speaking of that, my last one, what would it be without a dead format? DVD audio.
I love it.
I know it. I love it. I have my Universal player. Good luck getting it out of my hands. This one, Sinatra at the Sands, was the 5.1 version was mixed by Elliot Mazer, a dear friend and recording engineer and producer par excellence who passed recently. Probably best known for producing Harvest by Neil Young. He also did the multi-channel for that. But this, Sinatra at the Sands, it's Frank Sinatra with the Count Basie Orchestra. So right there, worth the price of admission.
Certainly.
You're seated in the club. You're about 10 feet from the stage at the perfect table. And this is what 5.1 mixing is all about. I know it's, like I said, dead format. I don't know where you're going to find it. This is still one of my favorite discs, and not just because my name is mentioned in the credits with a thank you for some reason. But
that's
almost
awesome.
everybody I can honestly say that I appear on the same disc as Frank Sinatra. Thank you, Elliot. Rest in peace. I love you. So those are a few suggestions. Anybody wants to write in, I have thousands more because this is what I do.
That's awesome. And, as we start to get to the close of the episode tonight, we're at the hour, and I don't want it to run too long. That's, I hope to definitely have you back in the future so we can talk about more of these kinds of things. I love talking about the gear, but I also like to talk about the content because that's why. Right? I mean, well, some people are like, it's all about the gear, right? But for me, I want to consume some content. I love to listen to the music. I love to watch the video. I love to have that experience, whether it be through a pair of headphones in the theater with a rear projection, 130-inch anamorphic screen, or even on a tablet or in the television, right? That's my passion is consuming it. And, for the folks that don't know, my career has been in technology my entire life. So I do have an affinity for the nuts and bolts of things and putting things together, and the speeds and feeds and connections and wires and cables and protocols and that kind of stuff. So I do like that, but ultimately I want to have that good experience. So, anytime you want to come back and talk about something, if you have something on your mind, you just let me know, because we will get it out there.
Oh, fine with me. Let me just have some more coffee. I'll see you in an hour.
I could do this all night long. And talking about doing things all night long, another segue that has nothing to do with anything I just said, we're going to talk about some upcoming projects. So I like to let people know what I'm working on. And I'm currently working on a video that I've procrastinated on for a while now, which is a review of the SVS SB2000 Pro. And they actually just came out with the 1000 Pro last week. I think they announced it, and that finally gets support for their web app, or rather their iPhone app and Android app, across their entire product line of subwoofers. So now you can use this app to manage any SVS subwoofer product that you might have your hands on. And at the price point for their 1000 Pro line, which I think is $499, that's it's kind of, I don't know of another company that's really doing that at that price point right now, which is cool. But I'll be dropping a video in 2 months or something like that. There's a line in front of it about this, but I'm working on filming that now, and I'll go in depth for the app, and that information will be applicable, everything from their PB16, the humongous one, all the way down to the SB1000, which is their little guy now. So that's upcoming. Now, this week's video is going to be Atmos speaker install tutorial. And the fun part about this is you guys get to watch me try and hold these 30-pound speakers over my head and bench press them up, and then use a drill to tighten them into the ceiling, and almost fall down and die multiple times, and you have these things crush my skull. So that's the exciting part there. If you've ever,
now that's content.
Dude, that is a who are the guys that would always like get in the carts and jump into the thorns and cut themselves and shoot themselves with electrical darts?
Oh God, Jackass.
Yeah, this is going to be the Jackass of speaker installation. So that's the stuff right there.
Sign me up. Yeah.
It's really bad because my wife assisted me, and actually Mike helped film this one because we just couldn't do it all by ourselves. And it ended up that I had to actually take this speaker, because it's this wide, and it's a plate of aluminum, and it's got 4 drivers in it. It's a beautiful speaker from start sound, but I couldn't hold it up, right? So I ended up having to rest it on my head and climb up this ladder and then lift it up, and and it seals to the ceiling eventually, right? So you can't hold it like this. You have to eventually just be pushing on it. So I would push up this way, and then my wife would go around and tighten everything up. It was crazy. And they're not cheap speakers. I was scared I was going to drop one and just make a mess of it, but it worked out. And with the miracle of editing and post-production, it's going to be awesome for you guys. And then the week after that, the product video coming out that I think is near and dear to your heart, which will be Alta Audio Alex. And
I know them.
Yes. And I want to take a minute to talk about these guys. I talk about them copiously in the video that I'm going to release, but these speakers are really good. And I did a REW measurement of the Alec Tower. And, I talked with Michael Levy. Am I saying his name right? Michael Levy?
Levy.
Michael Levy. And, he's the designer and the owner of the company and all that kind of good stuff. And he's like, these things are going to, bring you into the experience. And, they've got this transmission line that creates a bass response that you're not going to expect from a speaker of this size, because these are 2-way towers with a, it's not I guess it is a ribbon. And then I think an 8.5-inch mid bass driver. And, I'm like, okay, man, maybe 35 Hertz. Man, these things go deep. Yeah. I was shocked. And he's absolutely right about the soundstage and the imaging of these things. It made me feel like I was in the room. These were, and I only got to keep these for, I don't know, I probably kept them longer than I should. I think I had them for 45 days or something. They are just, when he was all like, you got to send them back. I'm like, no, come on, send them back.
We have a long line, but yeah, I'm glad you liked it. I when I heard them, I felt like I couldn't be so effusive because I represent them, professionally. Yeah. So sure, what else are you going to say? Just listen to it. There's nothing like it.
Yeah, I mean, and this is, you know, the stuff I don't get paid to make these videos. Sometimes I get to keep product, but obviously I didn't get to keep these because they're $10,000 speakers. But holy smokes, they're good.
Yeah.
I mean, and one thing I talk about in the video is actually I used them to watch the Super Bowl too, right? So I kept them right to the end of the Super Bowl, and then I shipped them back, and you know, they created some great experiences for me and my family, which is awesome, right? Because, you know, I'd sit down with my boys and my wife, and we would listen to music, and then we would, you know, and we don't watch lots of football, but we watch the Super Bowl because you have to watch the Super Bowl just so you can see the commercials at least, right? And you know, it was a great bonding experience. So, you know, the boys are like, where are those speakers? You know, the ones that are like this, you know, they that's what they call them because they don't know the name. They're like the ones that are like this. I'm like, I had to send them back, and they're like, why, Dad? Those were good. So, you know, when my boys question my sanity for returning a product, that it has to be good. Anyway, so thought I would call that one out, but that one will be not this Friday, but the Friday after. So I'm super excited for that. Gosh, I think that's bringing us close to the end. Next week, the guest will be Steve Nemi. And am I saying that one right? Yeah, and a friend of Adam's. He knows him well, and I'm looking forward to that. We're going to talk about audio distribution and a handful of brands that he's associated with, and I'm super excited because he works for some really cool stuff, and I think everybody will be, you know, very happy to hear his point of view on the world. And you know, what I like to bring people is different points of view in the industry. You know, they get to see things in a way that they might not have seen it before, because usually we just see things as a consumer. We don't get to see, you know, someone who works in distribution, or someone who works in a brand, someone who works in PR, that kind of stuff. So it's kind of cool to have these conversations. And this will be yet another point of view that I think isn't commonly discussed out there. Right. So anyway, thank you so much for coming on the show. I know I've dominated the last few minutes here, but thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure, Giles. This was a blast. I'll be happy to do it again. Just say when.
Absolutely. And for all of the viewers, a special thanks to you as well. You're the reason I do this. Even though I love Adam, I don't do it for him. I do it for all of you. If you have a moment, please like and subscribe, drop a comment down below, ring the bell so you'll be notified when new content drops. And I drop new content every Friday, and there's a new stream every Tuesday. And I'm going to see how long I can keep this going before I get so tired that I have to take a week off. And I might even just record an episode for that when I'm out traveling on vacation, drinking margaritas. So you'll have something every Tuesday and every Friday to keep you busy, whether it's live or not. So as always, thank you, Adam. Thank you, everybody else. Pleasure. And we'll see you guys in the next video.
Thanks again.
Take care.